Welcome to the Starter Girls Podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girls Podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls Podcast. We are so glad that you are here today, wherever you are tuning in from. And so I'm excited to welcome my guest on. A little bit about her. She started coding when she was just 8 years old. She took that passion with her to prestigious institutions like MIT and Harvard Business School, and eventually to a prominent role at Microsoft. With a diverse career spanning finance, teaching at San Francisco State, law, smart city policy, consulting, and more, she's truly explored a wide array of fields. And so you guys are going to get to meet her in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. Okay, with that, I'm excited to welcome our guest on today. So please help me welcome Denzil Eden. She's the brilliant behind Smarty, an all-in-one AI productivity assistant designed to plan your best day every day. As a trailblazer and solo female technical founder, Denzel carved her niche with an AI-focused degree from MIT, an MBA from Harvard, and distinguished career at Microsoft. Denzel is dedicated to making your life smarter with AI enhancing routines, automating mundane tasks, and maximizing every minute. So Denzel, welcome to Starter Girls. I'm so excited that you are here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be so much fun. I know you and I talked like months back, and so this has kind of been a long, I think, awaited episode. And you know, you've done a lot of podcasts that we got so many people trying to get on these shows all the time. So I get so excited when I finally get to get somebody on here that I've talked to a while back and catch up with them and find out where they are. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
Me too.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about Smarty AI, because I want to talk a little bit about how this came about for you, the backstory on this, because you're in an entrepreneur space and I want to know what led up to this moment.
Yeah, great question. So it's hard to know exactly the moment where Smarty struck me as an idea, but I think it was while I was at business school, and I was going through this, I guess, career path reflection period where I was like, okay, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I had never considered entrepreneurship up until that point as like a truly viable career path. But I asked myself, if I could only work on one thing for the rest of my life, what would it be? And I really wanted to be part of this AI movement. And this was back in 2018, way before all of the generative AI stuff we're seeing today. But I was asking myself, like, I think that's the future. I think that's going to be right around the corner, which it was. And I asked myself, like, what could I be doing in that space? And so really looked at problems that I was facing in my own life. And really, even then, I knew like more than half of the work that I was doing on a daily basis could be easily automated with the technology that we had in existence then and in existence today. And in fact, I think more than 3/4 of the work that we do is easily automatable with technology. And I wanted to build that solution. I wanted to build it with AI. And so I started building Smarty for myself. And it started as a chatbot. I was something that I was just doing on the side. And it took me a while to raise money, to like really figure out what the product looks like, who the customer was. But that's how I got started. And it was just something that I wanted to build for myself.
I think, you know, what's awesome about this, and I love this when I hear stories like this, because I think a lot of my work is the same way. I think when we find a problem area, and I don't even want to say problem, but maybe just an area in our lives that became either a problem or we're trying to enhance it, something that becomes a need for ourselves. And then we realize, wow, that need is it's something important to us. And then we start recognizing that it could be important to someone else. And so I think that's what's really remarkable about what you did here, is that it wasn't just, hey, I had this idea and I want to create it. No, you took a pain point in your own world and said, hey, how can I enhance my, the quality of my life or whatever I'm doing here, and create that into something and give that to, and put that into the world for somebody else.
Definitely. It's exactly like that. I think it's so important as an entrepreneur to find something that you're passionate about, is a problem that you understand yourself, but then you have to make sure that it's a universal problem, that other people are facing that as well. And then I think there's a trap that comes with that, because even though that's a great place to start, it's very easy to fall into the trap or pitfall of building for yourself instead of building for that universal customer. So there's a balance there. And it's definitely a balance that I had a hard time finding at first, and it's only gotten easier with time.
That's a good point that you make there. And you're right, because a lot of times we like to create things that we like, right? And we'll get hung up in that, I like this, but you want to be able to get your product to, whoever your market is, and you've got to figure out your market, right?
Exactly.
So maybe tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's important.
I think that's the hardest part of being a founder, is figuring out product market fit, or finding founder market fit. You have to find something that you're passionate about, a solution that you want to build, but you have to validate that there is a market there, that there's a customer there. And I think there is a right way to do it. I think there's a formula for how do you validate an idea, how do you validate the market, and if it exists. But I think most first-time founders don't know that. And actually, I've been hearing this so often over the last couple of months, that first-time founders are really product-focused, but second-time founders are really market-focused or distribution-focused. Because I think as you dive into how do you distribute the product, how do you market the solution, you kind of validate who is the market, who is the customer, who are you trying to sell to, and that helps give you information about what product are you building. And so really, I think a lot of first-time founders are so focused on building the solution, figuring out the solution, and really all of your energy needs to be on who is the market, who is that one customer that you can reliably sell to over and over again.
Good. No, thank you for sharing that. I think that is so important. And I like that you distinct, the first time when they get into product, and the second time it becomes market focused, because you learn, right? This
Exactly.
Whole thing is a journey. And I think you go through it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to say I didn't create anything, because I did create a program, and I really had to go into, in doing that, I worked with a mentor, and he spent a lot of time in the very beginning before we were building that out, in really helping us to hone in and identify who our market is and figuring out what are their pain points. So I thank you for sharing that, because I do think that is huge. And I do think we get into the trap sometimes of having these brilliant ideas as, creator, whatever it is, whether you're creating an AI or you're creating a music label, right? Anything. We have these ideas of what we like. And sometimes we get so, focused on this is what I want it to be, that we lose sight of who we're really trying to aim the product for.
I think actually, and a lot of people react really weirdly whenever I say this, but I think everyone should be a founder or try to go through the entrepreneurship journey, because actually entrepreneurship is everywhere you look. You start a podcast, you create your own art, your own music, your own writing. Everything is a process of creating something and selling to someone else. And that is entrepreneurship at its core. And I think everyone should work on that skill set. I think everyone at their heart is a founder.
You could start with the Girl Scout cookies. That's what I'm talking about.
Totally.
You're a little entrepreneur.
We're young.
I had kids selling Girl Scout cookies. I was a troop leader mom. I know. We were little entrepreneurs. They learned early on. I love it. That's great advice. Great advice. So I know you and I talked at the beginning about funding, because you did something really, and I have not forgotten about you. You did something really amazing there with that funding. And I want to talk about that and maybe some of the challenges that you've had to work through as a young starting founder, and also in a you're in the AI, in the tech space, and so maybe share a little bit about the challenges of all of this.
Yeah. So fundraising took me a while. As I mentioned, I thought of the idea while I was at business school. So that was 2018, but I didn't actually raise my first round of funding until 2020. And I had a lot of things not really working for me. I was a first-time founder. I was a solo founder. I didn't really have any sort of entrepreneurship experience, or even necessarily an early passion to pursue that, or networks in that space. And so it took me a little while to figure out how do I sell this idea to investors? How do I convince them that I'm the right person to build this solution? And I will say the main takeaway from my experience is that you need to have grit, resilience, and you really need to prove to an investor that you are the right person to solve this idea. And if I could go back to me in 2020 or even me in 2018, I would handle fundraising so differently than I did. I was really, as we've already talked about, very much focused on building the product instead of validating the market and validating who would buy the product. And if I could go back and tell first-time founders today, the best way to actually go to an investor to approach them is to have already pre-vetted and validated your idea. Investors see the same idea 10 times in a week. And so what they're looking for is a founder who has taken that idea and proven out to themselves what is the solution. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can do that without building anything, without creating anything, without hiring anyone. For example, you could just create a landing page with the marketing for what your idea is and have a waitlist on that landing page and send it to people who you think would be the customer. See what resonates, what doesn't resonate. See if people give you their email and like commit just by giving an email that they're interested in this idea. Then do some user research, do user interviews, validate the solution. There's so much you can do before you even start building an idea. And once you've like figured out who that customer is, what they're willing to pay, take that to an investor. They'll be much more likely to look at you seriously and to consider investing in you.
It's good. I love it. All of that. Thank you. And I do think I went through I'm trying to backtrack. I know an organization, and they have part of it is a nonprofit that they do, but they actually go in and they teach founders how to go through the whole pitching process. So I actually got to sit through one of those and see what it's like. And of course, I was doing this on my podcast, which is kind of funny, right? Because this would be like, how do you pitch a podcast? You're trying to get people like sponsors or whatever. But it was a neat process because they had a lot of people that were in there with tech ideas and different business proposals, but they walked us through that whole idea of how do you get to that end and actually pitch that to your investors, that whole process. Because you're right, I do think that organization is important, and they want to know that when you come in there, you've got a solid plan of what this looks like, how it goes forward. But I think you said something really good, and that kind of stuck with me is, if you could go back and do things differently. And I think this is, again, all part of it. I've known so many people that have, they've done several startups, like they've been successful, and some of them haven't. But I think with each one of those, it's not a one or all. I think with each of those experiences, you gain more knowledge and you learn a little better how to navigate. Let's say this Smarty AI takes off, which should start, you're doing really well, you're doing amazing things, but maybe you decide you want to create something else, right? Next time around, you're going to be like, boom, got it down, ready to roll. And you can share this with other up and rising startup ventures, people that are wanting to go into that space.
Definitely. I think there are wheels that have already been built. And so instead of reinventing the wheel, you need to find these founders who have been in the same space as you, but are maybe a couple steps ahead that can tell you like, hey, this is the roadmap. This is how I would get started. I think there is a right way to start the discovery process around entrepreneurship. And there's so much you can do to get rid of those unknown unknowns.
I think it's good. I love what you're doing. And I love that you're like, I told you this when I first met you. You've got a lot of energy. You're passionate, and I love it because that comes across. And that's how I get to when I get excited about things I'm really passionate about. Like my heart goes into it. It's like for real. And this is your baby. This is your creation, And so I love that you're passionate about what you're doing. I would really like to know, like, just kind of some strategies, because obviously you've got books back there, and I know you're obviously, I see your content going over on LinkedIn, and you're all about empowerment and all of those good things. I would like to know how you sort of balance out, I don't even like to use the word balance, let's say harmony, how you do take care of yourself in the personal growth space, but then also find time to do that, but also with all the demands that are coming in and building up this business.
Yeah, it's something that took me a long time to figure out. How do you strike that balance? And I do think balance is the right word, because self-care is such an important part as an entrepreneur. It is your baby. You're putting all of your time and energy and effort into it. And sometimes it feels like working out doesn't matter because there's so many other things on my plate, or like eating the right meals doesn't matter. I'm just going to do like a quick junk food meal because it's faster, because you're putting all of your time and energy into this idea that doesn't have time constraints, that could take up all of your time. And so you have to create boundaries with yourself and say, okay, I need to take time aside to take care of myself, because especially when you're starting a company, you are N of one. You're the only person. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not taking care of your business. And so you have to have that mindset that you are a priority. Your self-care, your health and wellness is going to directly impact the health and wellness of your company. And so
oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, so it took me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah, no, this is good. And you're right. And I think that you hit on something when you said taking care of yourself, because then you're not taking care of the other things. And I say this all the time. I always say how you do one thing is how you do all things. And so if you're sloppy in certain areas here, they will manifest in the other ways. They may show up very different differently in the other areas of your lives, but they usually are congruent. They show up. And so it's kind of, I just did a workshop last week, and I was talking about like neurological fitness, basically regulating the nervous system and understanding that the nervous system just isn't about, we go run and we know that we need to, at the end of a run, we need to let our body recover, right? Like after we exercise, we know to recover, but do we let ourselves recover after stress, right? Like when we've been doing a lot of stress stuff, are we taking time to actually recover so that we can let our body have time to come back to a baseline, right? And so this is why I bring this question up to you, because I feel like this has been such an important part of my journey. I've been in the entrepreneur space now for, since 99, for a long time. And so I've been kind of doing my own thing. And it wasn't probably until like the last 10 years that I actually really got consistent, and even more so now, about my personal self-care habits, the things that I do, like my reading, and if I want to do meditation, or my exercising, eating right, all of those things. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's huge.
I think what's really helped me is like keeping track of my time, like making sure I am time blocking into my calendar. Okay, this is time for me to have an outlet. This is time for me to focus and do deep work. This is my time to catch up on all of the administrative things. I think having a really good sense of your time and your calendar and your days can really make a difference in helping you make sure that you are hitting all of your priorities in your life and your work.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Would you say, because I know you're doing all this on your own, but I always feel like we always have some inspiration somewhere. We pull something from somewhere. Do you feel like there's a certain, maybe a mentor or someone in your life that it kind of influenced you or inspired you in some way?
Well, I think throughout my life, I've been very inspired by my parents. Like, they're immigrants. They came really young to the US and have like really worked their way up to the stability and like the happiness that they have today. And it's been so inspiring to see them like invest in themselves, invest in me, and invest in the life that they built around themselves. And I think I look at that and I'm always like finding inspiration and motivation there in terms of how I'm shaping my own life.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line, 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/JenniferLoading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine.
That's awesome. I love stories like that. I met a guy the other day that's going to be on my show that has, just tell our audience, I have one that I'm talking to this week. He has a cleaning company, but he's a young 20. I mean, I think he's probably around my kid's age, like a young guy, but he tells this story that, I asked him, I met him at a networking event, and I asked him, were your parents entrepreneurs? And he said, no, I was raised by a single mother. And he has 4 siblings, and they're all like very close together. And of course I was asking him, are any of your siblings entrepreneurs? Like, I'm trying to fish, like, where did this entrepreneurial spirit come from? Well, I'm excited to chat with him, but I'm telling you this because I love these stories when I hear, that they say something about their family life inspired them, or something, that they gained along the way in watching their parents, how they modeled their behavior in the workforce or whatever that was. So one of the first questions I could have asked you when we did the background, but you came back and you covered it. So thank you for that.
I feel like very lucky to have had like the family that I've had and to have been able to learn so much and like had the life that I've had.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So what advice would you said you gave us a little bit earlier. We talked about the funding and set, being organized in your presentation as far as pitching all of that, getting investors, all that stuff. What advice would you give for somebody, say, that maybe maybe they're starting out somewhere. I don't know what that looks like for them, their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, if I was going to start a startup today and I had an idea that I was really passionate about, I think exactly the formula that I would follow is to create a landing page for that idea. Figure out how to market it. Maybe I'd create multiple landing pages with different marketing for different versions of that idea. And I would send that out and see which ones gets the most interest, create that wait list of customers or potential customers who are interested in the idea, go back, interview them. Try to find 5 or 10 people that have the same problem, the same pain point that they're willing to put money behind a solution for. And then I would build a prototype for that solution, but not with code, not with like software, just like a paper prototype or a Figma prototype, and try to figure out, okay, what does that solution look like? How does it work? How does it look? And go back to those same 5 or 10 people with that same pattern and say like, okay, what do you think of this idea? And keep iterating on it until you can go to an investor and say, okay, I found these 10 people. They've already committed $100 for the earliest version of this product, and I know exactly what the product is going to look like. I know exactly who I'm going to sell to, and I know exactly how much I'm going to charge for it. And the more people you have like that you can say to an investor, like, hey, this is what I'm building, this is who I'm building for, and this is how much money I'll be able to make, the more convinced they will be that your idea is the one to invest in. And so I think there's so much work you can do to get your idea off the ground without quitting your job, without raising capital, without hiring anyone. There's so much validation that needs to be done. And I think I didn't realize that there was so much I could do without raising money, without building a product, without hiring an engineering team. And so that's what I would say to any aspiring founder that's out there. Validate your idea. There's so much you can do right now. And some books to really help with that. The Mom Test, it's a great book for how to interview users. 0 to 1, I think, is a great book about how to get your startup from that initial idea to product market fit. There's some really great entrepreneurial resources out there. And so don't reinvent the wheel and start validating your idea.
That was good. I was writing down those books. That's why you saw me. I was like, let me write them down. Those are good. That was all solid advice, by the way. And I think, the landing page, and I like that you were talking about doing a few of them to figure out which one sticks. Because again, I think it gets back to getting unstuck with the idea that we have to do what we like and getting it to meet our audience needs. So all solid advice. And I think that landing page could fit with anything, really. I mean, anything you're trying to do, whether it's, creating art, a book, podcast,
yes.
Everything.
Everything needs some sort of like website or some sort of communication with your community. Yeah. And so whatever that is, create it. It could be a TikTok too. You could just create a TikTok page trying to reach that customer that you're really excited about and have the wait list just on the TikTok page. Yeah. And see if people sign up and are interested.
It's great. I love it. So I want to kind of switch this to you a little bit personally, because you're kind of the whole package, the business, all of it. I would love to know what you feel like you've learned about yourself in this process, going through all this.
I think my biggest learning about entrepreneurship and in general, just being a professional in any career or in any industry, is that there's a very small difference between imposter syndrome and a growth mindset. So an imposter syndrome is you telling yourself, I can't do this, I'm not the right person to do this. And a growth mindset, I think the only difference is I can't do this yet. It's that word yet, where you tell yourself, okay, I can't do this, but I can figure out how to do it. There is hope here. There's a path here. I am capable of learning and growing. And I think it's so easy to get stuck in that imposter mindset and not realize to be in that growth mindset, you just have to take one little step of committing to being better, to learning, to growing, to finding the right resource to help you grow. And I think that's been one of my biggest learnings through the entrepreneurship journey, is that you just need to have grit and resilience, and you just need to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. No, this is good. And you said that you started that off in the very beginning of our conversation, but I like this I can't do this yet part, because I think this is great. It kind of goes along with, go back to that mentor that I told you I worked with to help build that program out. One of the things he would talk to us about is when we would say something like how bad something is. And he would say, to what extent is it really bad? right? It makes me think of that in this same scenario, because you're saying, I just haven't done it yet. It's not, your mindset is of that growth of that. I just need to figure it out. I just haven't done it yet. Right. And I love that, because I think that is a thing. And I'm not saying that people outside of the entrepreneur space don't have this, but I think that is the optimist outlook, is that growth mindset that you say there's always a solution. You just need to do something differently. And when I was, I don't know if I shared this with you. I was in the network marketing industry for 22 plus years. I think I say 22 because I don't know the exact moment I cut off, but it was 22 plus years. I was in Mary Kay for that long, and I was in leadership, and I used to work with women a lot. And I would always, they would come to me and they would say, this doesn't work, or this doesn't work. And I would look at that and go, but did you try it this way? Did you try this? Because my brain automatically, and you're probably the same way, my brain looks at a problem and goes, there's a solution to this. I haven't figured it out yet. And I'm going to go at it till I do.
I'm exactly the same way. I'm such a hacker. I'm such a builder. I'm like, every time I see a challenge, I'm like, okay, how do I solve this? Like, there must be a solution. And I think that is like it is a mindset shift. Like, you can't become hopeless. You can't like look at a situation and be like, okay, well, I can't handle this. Right. There is a solution. Like, sometimes you just have to try something until it works.
Yeah, and I joke that my story goes back to doing those stupid word problems in math class when I was a kid. Because my mom would come in and she'd be like, do you want me to help you with it? And I'd be like, no, I'm going to figure it out. Leave me alone. So I agree with you on that, continuing to keep working at it until you get it. Sometimes you got to I do think sometimes if there are certain things that where I do say where our time and money is not being well spent, we're not putting energy, we're wasting our time. You might need to delegate that out. But I think when you're trying to figure something out that is important for your business, that requires your attention to it, you need to have the ability to stick with that and continue persisting until you figure that solution out.
Definitely. And I actually think there's a really great book about this called Grit by Angela Duckworth. I think that's the author's name. And it's really about this idea that like the children that I think she's done studies around children who like tend to succeed most. It's this mentality of like, I can do it. I can figure it out. Hard work and just like resilience around like keep going if you can't figure it out.
Yeah, we are definitely doing that. And that's why you're having success. And I love it. I love it. Okay. So a fun question here. So what are your future goals and aspirations? And you can talk personally and you can talk about Smarty AI, what you see happening with that as well.
Great. I'll start with Smarty. So actually you just said that, like it's really important to delegate. And I actually think what I've learned through my entrepreneurial journey and just like seeing where technology is going is that most things are automatable, but even if they're not automatable, chances are you shouldn't be the one doing them. You can probably delegate work. There's very little work that is specific to you, but that work is the most important work, the work that only you can do. So you should be trying to delegate everything else in your life. And that's really kind of the approach that we're starting to take at Smarty. We're trying to become, in this new strategy shift that we're taking now, this all-in-one assistant where we're using a team of human assistants and automation to solve our clients' administrative needs, pretty much anything in their life that they can't do and that an expert in a specific field can't do. And I think that's really a new conclusion that I've come to, is that everything is delegatable. You should be probably delegating everything except the stuff that is only unique to you. So that's a big learning that I've had professionally that I'm really like doubling down on in Smarty. And then in terms of like me personally, I think one of the biggest learnings and things that I'm trying to focus on is that balance between taking care of myself and building my business, and that one doesn't have to come at the expense of the other. And so that is something that I'm really trying to figure out in my own life by, as we already kind of talked about, tracking my time and seeing where my time is going and making sure that I'm putting enough time into my family and my well-being while also taking care of the priorities for the business and helping it grow.
Yeah. And the advantage to that, Denzel, that I see is that if you get those systems in place now while you're kind of, really getting this thing moving, that you'll have that foundation. And it's so much easier to do it then, right? Than when you get super busy and you got to come backwards, right? That whole delegation, I think it's so hard, in business, because we, as entrepreneurs, a lot of us, and I'm sure you can agree, are talented in a lot of areas, but we also know that our time is precious and we can't do all things, right? And so that's why it's like you're saying, it's so important to be able to delegate some of those things out to people where people that really enjoy doing those things. Like I always joke and say that Like, I'm a forward facing person. I love doing these interviews. I love engaging with you. I love networking. I love meeting people. I can sell you probably anything. I mean, I'm a cheerleader. I'll get you across the finish line. I get people to events. I'm that kind of person. But I'm not a tech person, and I'm not a marketer. I'm not a great person that understands strategy when it comes to all of those things. And so sometimes I do have to get help with some of that stuff to say, hey, I've got the ideas. I'm the idea person. Like, you talk to me. I've got, like, you have an idea, Denzel, call me up, because I'm all about ideas, right? But then we got to start putting all that on the paper and getting the technical. Like, I need help because I start losing steam, right? And so I think it's so important to, like you're saying, delegate, but also bring in those people. If you're in business and you have the ability to do that, bring in those people that have those great strengths that can actually complement what you're doing.
Definitely. I think it's really important. And I think it's like a lifelong journey to understand, like, what are you best at? What are your strengths? And then understanding how to find people to complement those strengths. Exactly like you said. And I think that's a really big part of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So one other question I want to ask you, I actually have two more that I want to ask you. These are kind of personal. I want to know what you personally love about this journey. Like, what is this? What's the heart of this for you?
I think my favorite part, and I didn't know this going into entrepreneurship, is the fact that I learn so much every day. I feel like I'm growing a significant amount every single day. And I don't know if you've read James Clear's Atomic Habits, but his whole thing is around being 1% better every day. But it's really hard to constantly be growing and constantly be learning unless you're actively seeking it out. And I think entrepreneurship is this forcing mechanism that is forcing you to be 1% better every day. And I feel like those gains really add up over time.
I don't even have to add to that. You hit the spot because you gave me chills. So I know you hit the spot today. I love those heart-centered questions because I think we get so task-oriented in everything that we do. And you're right. There's so much that's not on an ROI that comes from being in the entrepreneur space. You learn so much. I mean, I don't care what field you're in, what you're doing, whether you're selling socks, whether you're doing tech or you're doing a podcast. If you are doing any capacity where you're having to step out of your comfort zone, maybe run a marathon. We'll add that too, because I've done that. Anything that you do that is going to force you to step out of your comfort zone on a day-to-day basis, you are growing in some way, and you are forced to have to keep learning if you want to get better at what you're doing. So you said it. I love it. I love it. All right. One fun last question I want to ask you before we wrap this up. I would love to know what you do in your fun time outside of Smarty. Like, what's Denzel's fun stuff that she loves to do?
It's a great question. So I am actually trying to ask myself, how do I stay more active physically? I think physically staying active is something that everyone should be investing in because it's so important for your health. It's so important for your mental health. And so it's something that I've been really trying to put a lot of my resources and energy into, but in a way that's easy and fun for me. And so I've been trying to find more activities that I enjoy doing that bring me joy, but are also great physical outlets. And so I've started running 5Ks for charity every month, or I've started taking tennis classes because I wanted to learn and it sounded fun. And so I've been trying to find any sort of physical activity that I think will bring me joy and trying to incorporate it into my life. And so as part of that, I'm also trying to integrate my friends into it. So I've been trying to get my friends to run the 5Ks with me, or I've been trying to get my friends to take tennis classes with me because I'm at a beginner level. So if you've never played, just join me for the class. We'll do it together. And I've been trying to get them to do that as well, to take me on walks with them, to take me on hikes with them, to find more physical activities to do that we can do together.
Absolutely. Always better if you have a couple teammates with you, right?
Exactly.
I think that's great though. And I think your approach, finding things that you enjoy, because when I work with people, sometimes these are topics that come up. They'll come to me and believe it or not, they're successful in all these areas, but physical activity is a hard part if you didn't grow up doing it, right? And so this topic comes up a lot. And I always go back to the same thing. Get the metric out of your head that it has to be this amount of minutes, this amount of sweat, this amount of all. Go back to what do I enjoy doing? Because to me, you're better off if you enjoy doing an activity at a shorter time than pounding something you hate doing. You're going to have less resistance if you're enjoying it, and you're going to be more inclined to do it. So you might as well try to make it fun.
Exactly. I think seeking fun is the only sustainable way to do anything.
Absolutely. You need to have fun in your day every day. I agree with you on that. Whatever that looks like, you need to have a little bit of fun every day. Denzel, this has been awesome. I think you're an amazing woman. I love what you're doing. Like I said, I told you in the beginning, I love your energy. When we first met, I told you I liked you because I think you're passionate, and I think that's good. I think you got to be passionate in this journey, and you got to have resilience. You got to have grit. You got to have tenacity. You got to have it all. And you're doing it. You're doing it well with grace, and I love it all. What I want to know is if our listeners want to get in touch with you, maybe they want to find Smarty AI, maybe they want to connect with you, where would you like us to send them?
Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love chatting with folks, especially if you have questions on how to get your idea off the ground. Happy to chat about that at any point. And then if you need help with delegation, automating some of the work in your own life, check out Smarty. We're at smarty.ai. We're always looking for more people to work with.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Any final thoughts you want to leave our people with before we sign off today?
I love what you said about having fun every day. I think that's really, really important. And I love your energy. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. I've had a great time chatting with you. And of course, our listeners, go check Denzel out. She's doing amazing things. And we do want to say to you, if you enjoy the show, head on over to Apple. You can give us a review over there. Hit the YouTube button, subscribe so we can keep sharing all this amazing content. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. All right, you guys take care. Be safe. Be kind to one another. And we will see you next time.